How do animals use plants to heal themselves, and what can the wisdom of animals using plants for healing teach us about healing ourselves? In previous sections of this series, we discussed how injured plants make their own healing chemicals, including anti-inflammatory chemicals that the plants make for themselves, and how those can help with humans and our anti-inflammatory necessities. These molecules include alkaloids, tannins, terpenes, flavonoids, and other molecules. And we also discussed in previous sections how plants will make chemicals such as terpenes and tannins to protect themselves from being eaten by other organisms, and how we as humans can also use these molecules for our own benefits. Let's talk about animals using plants. Birds, for example, when they're making their nests, they will be very specific about which particular plants they choose. And they choose from a large variety of medicinal plants, and they will weave them into their nests to treat pest infestations, for example, and also to protect the immunity and health of their young. Birds will separate very specific plants from other ones that look almost identical to them, and they'll choose these particular plants for very specific reasons. Starlings, for example, will regularly select plants that are high in terpenes, and these volatile oils from the terpenes continuously bathe them and their young ones in the nests. Prey birds, such as hawks, owls, eagles, will also because they bring meat back to their nests for their young, that meat can develop bacteria. And so these birds of prey will weave strongly antibacterial herbs into their nests to help protect their young ones from any potential bacterial infections. And many birds will specifically pick plants to help clear mites from their feathers. Insects do this too, which I think is really very interesting. Beetles and grasshoppers, for example, will use plant chemicals to keep their shells free of fungus and bacterial infections. And certain insects, when they are infested by mites, will specifically seek out medicinal plants to kill the mites. Other insects will gather chemicals for protection. The sawfly, for example, will go to pine and select various terpenes from pine trees and store them in their body that they'll release as a spray against predation. And grasshoppers will do something similar, using over 20 different plant chemicals, including terpenes, to produce these powerful deterrent sprays. So that even the insects are using plants to heal themselves. And I find this fascinating. How does this intelligence develop, and how do the insects know specifically which plants to treat for what purposes? I find it fascinating. Honeybees collect resin from trees to make propolis that they use to protect the interior of their hive from infection. The resin from propolis comes from dozens of different types of trees: willow, alder, ash, birch, aspen. The bees will use them to combine resins with waxes, pollens, nectars, and their own internal enzymes to make the propolis. And propolis is very strongly antiviral, antibacterial, antifungal, and anti-inflammatory. And it remains effective for years and years and years and years. The ancient Egyptians actually used propolis from bees in their mummification processes. I am Dr. Jake Felice. Hope that you find these interesting. In the next section, I will talk about mammals and how mammals use medicinal plants for their own benefit, including chimpanzees, pigs, dogs, bears, and monkeys. If you like what these videos are doing, feel free to buy me a coffee. There's a link below. I would really appreciate that. I don't have any revenue that I receive from these. I do it just out of a love of sharing of this information. And you can find me and all of my videos at sweetwaterholistic.com. Thank you so much for listening. Please feel free to like, share, and leave a comment. I really appreciate it. And thank you so much for listening.